Okay, how we doing, folks? It is Sunday, November 27th, 2016. Rich Van Tassel giving you your weekly NBA report, starting as we always do in the Eastern Conference. Cleveland Cavaliers cruising. Not much of a surprise there. They're 12-2. They hold a three-game lead over anyone else in that conference. Kyrie Irving just shy of 24 points thus far this season. LeBron James dishing out 9.5 assists per game. That's one of the things I've really noticed. You look at LeBron James with his assist numbers. Now, his assists have always been very good, but this year, I mean, even 9.5 is higher for him. You look at the guys like Russell Westbrook, James Harden dropping a ton of assists. So that's something that's very surprising to me. One of the early things I've noticed. Toronto in second place, where I had them to finish the year. Or excuse me, I had Toronto finishing in first place. They're three back, 10-6. You got 2 through 4 are 10-6. The Raptors, Hawks, and Bulls. Hawks still hanging in there. They were off to a much hotter start. They're 6-4 in their last 10. Then you got the Celtics and the Hornets. Hornets really coming back down, 4-6 in the last 10. The Celtics, who were at 3-4, they've gone 6-3. They just refuse to beat the San Antonio Spurs. They cannot do it. They finally moved into the plus in their differential at 0.6 of a point. Knicks at 500, 8-8. They're 6-4 in the last 10. Knicks should be a playoff team this year. Then you got Indiana rounding out the top 8 at 8-9. Detroit 8-10. So Milwaukee 6-8. You got some teams there that will be contending for the 8th spot, possibly Orlando. The Washington Wizards at 5-10, 4-6. In their last 10. Let's see if they can finally get things together. Miami crashing a lot more than I would have thought. They're 5-11. Brooklyn 4-11, so they are really coming down. They've lost 6 straight, starting to play like the team we expected at the beginning of the season. 2-8 in their last 10, minus 8.6 in their differential. And the Philadelphia 76ers, it's really gotten embarrassing. 4-12, now 4-6 in the last 10. They're minus 9.3. I mean, the Sixers, look, people talk to me all the time about how good tanking is. You know, you don't want to get caught in purgatory where you're the 6th or 7th, 8th place team. You know, you need a big-time player. Well, what has Philadelphia had now? They've gotten Joel Embiid. They just drafted Simmons this year. I don't even know what Simmons is doing, to be honest with you, because to me, it's just not worth even watching the Philadelphia 76ers. Let's see if we can get those numbers, but they got Nerlens Noel. They got Jahlil Okafor. Okafor was what? The second overall pick that year? Yeah, Okafor was a third overall pick. Ben Simmons, what is he doing this year? Ben Simmons, I don't even think has played a game thus far. So, yeah, Ben Simmons hasn't played, so whatever. We're not going to hold him accountable for that. But Nerlens Noel, 6th overall pick, putting up decent numbers. And then, of course, Joel Embiid, who's just played for the first time. He was the 3rd overall pick. So, you know, tanking doesn't really help either because the Sixers are going nowhere. They're not moving any of these guys for whatever reason. That's confusing to me. They'd just rather get the shit kicked out of them on a nightly basis, and I really don't understand. But we'll see what happens with Philadelphia when Simmons gets started. In the West, Golden State on an 11-game winning streak. They're 10-0 in their last 10. Obviously, their differential is 13.2. That's the highest in the NBA. They've overtaken the Clippers, who are 14-3. Clippers still playing very well, 8-2 in their last 10. San Antonio on a 9-game winning streak, plus 5.8. The Clippers were plus 12.3 in their differential. San Antonio is 10-0 on the road. What is that about? Man, I can't believe the Celtics didn't beat them the other day. Memphis hanging in there, 11-6. They're 8-2 in the last 10. A lot of good teams playing well in the Western Conference. The Grizzlies are an interesting team. Like we said, I thought their window had shut. We'll see what the deal is. Maybe it hasn't. Maybe they still got a little bit left. Mike Conley got the big money, 19.5 points, only 5.8 assists. I'd like to see more, but Conley's still one of the better players. And certainly bringing Marc Gasol back has helped that team. Don't get me wrong. I'd like to see what the Grizzlies can do. They have a lot of professional players on that team. Vince Carter provides a little offense off the bench. That's certainly something they need. You got Gasol 17.9, but only 5.4 rebounds per game. So I'd like to see more than that. And of course, Zach Randolph does what he does. He's probably, 14.2, 7.9. Randolph getting up there in age. But he'll be 35 for the entire season. So let's see the Grizzlies. They had their injuries last year. They bring in Fizdale or whatever his name is to coach, and I'd like to see what they can develop. 8-2 in the last 10. Let's see how far they climb. But they are only plus 0.7 of a point in their differential. Houston 10-6. Oklahoma City 10-8. James Harden, checking him right now, still at 28.3 points per game, just shy of the 12.5 assists. That's very impressive, and 7.8 rebounds. So he's certainly carrying the mantle there, playing exceptionally well. I'm stunned by those assist numbers. It's not even really a knock on James Harden. Rajon Rondo, when he was putting up those ridiculous assist numbers, he wasn't even getting to that. And Rondo was not a guy who was coming close to putting up 28 points per night. You look at it, James Harden's accounting for almost 55 points per night between points and assists. That's ridiculous. Russell Wilson, on the other hand, is right there too. He's still just short of 10 rebounds per game, which would put him at a triple-double. I'm sure he could get that. That's going to be hard to do, but I'd like to see if he could average a triple-double. But he's putting up 31.2 points per night, 11.1 assists. So he's right at 55 points a night between assists and his point per night total, which is impressive there to be accounting for that many. It's exceptional. I really don't know if I've ever seen anything quite like that, the way these guys are playing. And certainly they're basically by themselves now. No Dwight Howard in Houston anymore. No Kevin Durant in Oklahoma City. Utah 9-8, plus 3.8 in their point differential. They're having a good season. Portland Trailblazers 9-9. I'd like to see them get rolling. They're still minus 3.4 in their point differential. They round out the top 8. The Lakers hanging in there for now, 8-9. Let's see if they start coming back down. They are 4-6 in the last 10. Sacramento 6-10. Let's see what happens with DeMarcus Cousins. They're right now only 2 out of the playoff spot. Still way too early for that. But I'd like to see if this team can develop something. And if they can possibly be a playoff team, then Cousins will stay. If they're not, it's really time for him to get out of town. And, some teams, Celtics, should get aggressive in trading for this guy already. Denver 6-10. New Orleans starting to come back along, 6-4 in their last 10. They're 6-11. So let's see what they can do. Minnesota still very disappointing at 5-11. However, Minnesota is only minus 0.4 of a point in their differential. That's better than some of the teams in the Eastern Conference, like the Knicks, who are 500, or minus 0.3 of a point. Indiana, minus 2.9. Detroit Pistons, who are 8-10, are still in the plus. So it's curious what's going to happen with the Minnesota Timberwolves. That team, though, still has way too much talent to not be making the playoffs. And then the Phoenix Suns, of course, Dallas Mavericks rounding out at 2-13. Mavericks really in trouble. Let's see if Dirk Nowitzki will be on the move. Power rankings, very easy for number 1, Golden State Warriors, of course, winners of 11 straight, 10-0 in their last 10, obviously. Number 2, I'm giving it to the San Antonio Spurs, winners of 9 straight, 10-0 on the road. That can't be ignored. Cleveland comes 3 at 12-2 on top the Eastern Conference. For the Los Angeles Clippers at 14-3 and 5. Tough one here between the two. I'm going to give it to the Memphis Grizzlies because they have that half-game advantage over the Toronto Raptors, and they are 8-2 in their last 10 as opposed to 6-4 for the Toronto Raptors. So there are your power rankings, the top 5. Warriors, Spurs, Cavaliers, Clippers, and the Memphis Grizzlies, 4 of the 5 teams in the Western Conference. All right, so I don't know if I'll do the Celtics report today or tomorrow because I believe they're having a game tonight. So stay tuned for that as well. We got to do the wrap-ups of the games, the NFL games, when those go final. Be sure to stay tuned for that as well. We'll see you in a little bit. Thank you.